Billy, a friend from high school, and I were sitting in our tent waiting for sunrise. We sit talking about families and friends, waiting for today's mail call, looking forward to a letter and perhaps a package from home. We call them care packages. We get socks, underwear, toothpaste, and other things you need. Sometimes we get a little box of candy and a magazine to read. Both always arrive out of date. Our letters let us know how the folks back home are doing. Letters tell us who married, passed away, and who moved away. We had been counting down the days till we could rotate back to the States. We were up early, put on our gear, checked our rifles, and attached 6 ammo clips to our belt. Made sure we carried enough water to last a day if we went easy on it. At daybreak, 0600, we were to move out with the others. We were going on a 10-mile hike today in tall grass. We knew it would not be easy. The lieutenant came over to talk to us for a few minutes before we left camp. Our task was to find a village that Charlie was using to hide supplies of weapons and ammunition. It was a locate and destroy, which sounded easy. In the tall grass, the sergeant halted us and told us to take a break, no smoking allowed, and check our weapons and ammo. We walked about halfway. I checked my watch. It was 10:45. From the information we had, it was about a mile ahead of us. Our intel told us it was locals who occupied the village, who sympathized with Charlie or simply afraid. Billy and I talked about getting home and what we would do. He was sweet on a girl from high school, Peggy. He would use his VA benefits to go to college. He had made plans to get a good job, save a little money, and marry Peggy. I hadn't looked that far ahead. I just wanted to get this place behind me. Then I would decide what to do about my future. It was time to move out. Our movement would have to be as quiet as possible. That meant going slow, watching where you step. My heart begins to pound in my chest, but not from exertion. We covered the last mile by 1200. We heard no sound from the trees or bushes, nothing. We stopped inside of the village. It looked empty except for a few men and women tending to their chickens and pigs. Our sergeant was from Louisiana. He grew up speaking French, and Uncle Sam sent him to learn Vietnamese. He graduated at the top of his class from a Defense Language Institute. He was pretty good at it, not that bastardized broken English, French, and Vietnamese stuff you hear in the bars. When he was comfortable with the area, we stepped out of the tall grass and trees toward the village. We kept our eyes moving from hut to hut, looking for anything that moved, even if only an inch. The sergeant spoke to the men, and they seemed impressed with his ability. He explained why we were in the village and asked if Charlie had come through. A small group came by early in the morning. They took a chicken or two before leaving, said an old man. The sergeant asked permission to search the village for any weapons they might have hidden. He told them we would take nothing from the villagers. We were there to destroy what Charlie was hiding. They continued to sit on their stools and didn't respond. I couldn't get a read on them. They showed no expression and were as cool as a cucumber. That worried me. Usually, when we ask, we get a lot of animated speech and hands flying around in protest. Billy and I paired up and began to search. The huts were one room and everything was inside. Mats to sleep on rolled neatly and put away. Pots to cook over an open fire, a bag of rice, dried fish. Hanging on a hook inside, I saw something like meat. I wasn't sure what animal it came from. Some huts had women in them. Most of the women were old. A few huts had younger women with children. The children looked at us with curiosity. We had finished searching our third hut when we heard a gunshot. We rushed to the door to look around. We stopped and watched, not exposing ourselves. not wanting to run out into the open and become a target. 10 minutes went by. The sergeant called us out to tell us what had happened. A Viet Cong, who was hiding underneath, was chased out. Charlie fired one shot toward the hut as he ran into the tall grass. We hadn't turned up anything from our search, and it was time to head back to camp. We didn't want to get caught out of camp after dark. The walk back seemed to take longer than it did that morning. We were tired and looking forward to camp and its relative safety. We had been on the move for about 2 hours. We were taking a different path back just in case Charlie was waiting to ambush us. Our radio operator stopped us to answer our call sign. The sergeant took the hand mic and spoke to the other end. Our base camp had been attacked with mortar rounds. Now our mission had changed. Now we were on a reconnaissance mission, which meant we had to get close enough to give an estimate of Charlie's strength. Our sergeant took out his folded map and looked it over. He was looking for a position where we could observe the enemy. We gathered around him as he pointed out where we would be heading. It was going to be an uphill climb. We needed to get into position so we could look down to see where the enemy was massed. It took almost 40 minutes to reach the top. Not much cover for us to hide in. The sergeant gave each of us a location to watch from and report to him the movements we saw. You could see the sudden movement of bushes as the enemy fired off mortar rounds at the base. You could see them hit. Some landed on tents that you hoped were empty. Very faintly, the sound of automatic weapons could be heard. It was a full-on attack by the enemy. They had a large number of fighters moved into the area. We gave our reports about the locations the enemy fired from. Our heavy guns had started responding with direct hits. It seemed like Charlie was moving back and still staying in range of their mortar rounds. For a while it became silent and we waited. A voice came over the radio asking for Charlie's location and to describe our position in case we needed to be choppered out. The sergeant took the map out and gave him our location. We were told it wasn't safe to return to the base and we would have to hunker down for the night. Night came and only the moonlit sky allowed us to see the person next to us. We were dug in, not much to eat, so we rationed what we had, including a sparse amount of water. The fire in the camp became intermittent, with only a mortar round about every half hour. There was little noise. The wind rustled the bushes some, and we strained our ears for any sound. Automatic weapons fire opened up around us. It came suddenly. We got down into our foxholes. Some of us were hit. You could hear them holding back the sound of pain. They tried not to make a sound, but you knew it was bad. I looked around at Billy. He was on his back with a large dark spot on his shirt. I bent over him, staring into his pale face. He said, "Tell my parents and Peggy I love them." I could hear his chest sucking air through his wound as he struggled to breathe. I put my hand over his wound and held his hand to the end. The Air Force came in during the night and morning hours to drive Charlie back. Myself and 3 others made it back to base camp. Billy and his sergeant went home on a special plane along with others who would be missed by family and friends, if not by a grateful country. I brought back personal items that belonged to Billy. The CO permitted me to do this. At Billy's house, I handed them over to his parents, and a torn picture I gave to Peggy. It was a picture of the 2 of them, the one he carried in his shirt pocket that night.